Ambition! Woohoo!
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back to Ambition.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alex.
And this is Tiffany.
Feels like ages.
It
doesn't
does.
it?
Yes. We'll get into it at some point, I'm sure. But I've just been back from Alicante.
And I'm jealous because I've been here for the cold, the wet, bit of bonfire night. That was quite nice, though.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We've got a really amazing guest for you today. Somebody I feel like I've known for a long time, just because, I see her posting all the time on LinkedIn. It's the fabulous Elizabeth Willetts. So she's the founder of Investing in Women. It's female empowering job board and community helping family-friendly and forward-thinking employers hire professionals who are looking for fulfilling, flexible and part-time work. She's an experienced recruiter with 17 years of experience, both in-house at one of the Big Four and for one of the UK's largest recruitment agencies. Elizabeth is also mum to two daughters, Emily and Annabelle, and the bit that I was really worried about saying in the sort of pre-chat, a Labradoodle called Dougal. She's a passionate believer in the power of part-time and flexible work to retain women in the workplace and close the gender pay gap. Her debut book, Flex, a dynamic guide to anyone wanting to build a successful career on their terms, is due out in January 2025. Hooray!
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
Thank you. What a great intro. Thank you so much for having me.
No, welcome to Ambition. Welcome.
I'm very excited. I love the name.
Oh, thank you.
That's
What a
Alex's
great
idea.
name.
Alex came up with it. She's the one that comes up with like creative, really great creative ideas.
I love a portmanteau. Is that how you pronounce it? Where you just smash a couple of words together. I'm quite good at that. So yeah.
I think it's great because a lot of people think wrongly, I believe that people lose their ambition after children. Women lose their ambition after children. I just love that you're like saying no,
putting it out there.
Yeah,
No,
putting it out there.
No,
Yeah,
definitely.
and also we're up in the northeast, we're mums as well. So it just fitted really well for us. And you're so right about the ambition thing. So we spoke to a journalist for The Guardian called Emma Beddington. And the first thing she said to us was like, you're putting ambition out there kind of front and center. Do you not feel like ambition's a dirty word for mothers? And we don't think it is, and I'm glad you share our sentiment.
Absolutely. I think I've become more ambitious since having children. I don't know if you are the same, but it definitely fueled my ambition to actually do something for me.
I love that. And I think what we spoke as well, I think there was something you said, which I always find interesting, that because obviously you're using your recruitment experience in an incredible way, right, to launch something that's much needed. But I know it came from a place where you needed to create an opportunity. So I'm interested to know how you came to launch Investing in Women in terms of, what was your situation at that time that made you think, okay, we need this is important?
So I'd been made redundant. My background is recruitment. I'd been made redundant. It was the pandemic, height of the pandemic, September 2020, and I couldn't find another job every time. And I wanted part-time. I was getting approached by a lot of recruiters, but for full-time roles. And my children were 1 and 3 at the time. And I didn't want a full-time role. I'd really struggled actually to have my daughter. She's IVF. And so it just went against, all those years of struggle. It was something I just didn't want to do full-time. Every time I asked a recruiter if the role could be done part-time or flexibly, they said no straight away or ghosted me. And I just look back on my career, and at that point I'd been in recruitment, a long time. And I thought I'd never actually recruited anybody on a part-time basis. Like, we didn't even register the people that wanted part-time roles when I was in agency, when I worked in-house at one of the Big Four, even though, they say a lot about D&I. We actually had never recruited anyone part-time for the team I was recruiting for. And then a pivotal moment for me was when I was chatting to my friend who had, really qualified. She'd done a degree, a postgraduate degree, and had lost her job like a lot of people during COVID. And the only role she could find then that was part-time that she could work around her children was at a minimum wage, £10 an hour job. And she took that. And I just thought that is what's happening to so many women, where they're taking something so, it was fine. She enjoyed it, but it's something that was a lot lower skilled, a lot lower paid than what she had been on. to get that flexibility. And I thought it then, I still think it now, that's the reason why we have a gender pay gap, because, as we all know, a lot of childcare, a lot of the domestic responsibilities fall to women. A lot of women want that as well, like I did. They want to be able to balance career and family. Not everybody wants to work full time, but we don't want to be punished with low skilled, low wage jobs because of that.
It's just such a waste of people's experience, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But I also like the fact that you were comfortable enough to say, I want a part-time job, because I think, whilst ambition is great, we're also balancing that against this important role of being a mother. And it's like, I just want to do both. So I think, I'd love
to. It felt quite radical to say it at the time.
Really? Yeah.
Even now, I still feel we're told this narrative that if we had more free childcare, and I believe that we should have, childcare is expensive, and that's another debate. But I do think that politicians and there's certain obviously media outlets seem to think that if every woman had like unlimited free childcare, we'd all want to work full time. And then speaking from my experience, I wouldn't have wanted that. I still would have wanted to work part-time while my children were small. And actually now speaking to other women, a lot of people do feel the same, but it still feels a little bit of like a dirty secret, like we can't admit that.
Yeah, almost like you want it all, you're being greedy.
Yeah. And it makes us less ambitious because we want to be part-time. And that to me just was not true. And actually being honest, since starting business, probably have worked much more hours than I would have ever worked in a full-time job, but I did work them flexibly, always around my children. And as the business has actually become more established, and we've got team members, I work part-time, I employ a part-time team, and I really try and celebrate that we're all part-time and we all finish at 3:00 to do
that's amazing. I mean, to me, while you were talking there, I've written down 37 hours a week. Isn't it funny how every single job takes the same amount of hours?
And it's the same hours, like 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Why?
And I think I love what you're doing in that you're questioning a system that wasn't built for women with kids. And saying, actually, there's not just one way that this can be done. And I do think that what you're doing is quite radical in terms of giving people the freedom to say, actually, I don't want to work full time, and making that kind of on a par with, people who do want to do a full time role. I think, maybe more women would opt for that if it was a realistic option.
Yeah, I think that's the issue, isn't it? I just think there isn't enough I still believe, unfortunately, I'm trying, we're doing our best, and we do get obviously loads of, part-time roles, but there isn't enough to actually meet demand. And I think that is, and it's especially at the senior level where they start becoming a lot more full-time. You tend to get a lot of part-time roles at like the 30 to 40k level full-time equivalent, but then it's getting more senior. It's actually persuading employers that it can be done, that the talent they get a much wider talent pool if they can offer flexibility. And actually, I believe that the productivity, I know we're in a productivity crisis, but I believe that if more work was offered flexibly and part-time, there's a thing called Parkinson's law, a theory which says that work expands to fill the time needed. So if I say to somebody, I need this presentation done, you've got 8 hours to do it, they're going to take 8 hours. Whereas if I say to someone, can you do this in 2 hours, they're going to do it in 2 hours. And I do, looking back, like I worked with somebody that was part-time when I was in agency, and it's all on sales then. And she was the biggest biller in our team. She was the hardest worker. She made the most money because she did not waste a second. She came in, worked, left. And
probably a lot less standing around having a coffee.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I was full-time at that point. It was before I had kids. And I was always going to the kitchen and gossiping and wasting the time.
Yeah. I remember those recruitment days and the coffees. Oh, can you get a cup of coffee? Yeah, you do. Oh.
And then you go and stand in the kitchen for half an hour.
I like that. And I think it's a question of how we look at work. And I like the fact that obviously you're also telling companies or trying to inform companies about the benefits, because obviously companies, they're set up to make a profit. Yeah. They're not there to kind of, obviously the social good is important too, and they'll say they are doing it. But so I'd love to know more about, can you talk more about how do you pitch it to companies, like in terms of what benefits have you researched or found to be a good thing for them to recognize
I mean,
that.
there's a lot of studies that show that diverse companies are more profitable, and I believe that one of the best ways to increase diversity within an organization is to offer flexible working. It's not just for women, but it's for people with disabilities and care and responsibilities. So I believe that is the best way to get a diverse workforce that then is going to be much more reflective of your customer base. And there is a lot of studies that show that those organizations are more profitable, they're more innovative, and also they are much more likely to retain their staff as well, therefore reducing recruitment costs, training costs. So generally it's so much better for a company's bottom line if you can offer flexibility and therefore encourage diversity within your organization. I believe, they did a study with Zurich in 2019 with the first, I don't know if it was a UK firm but definitely the first insurance firm within the UK to offer all roles as being open to flexible and part-time work. And they had a significant increase in the number of female applicants at all levels of role. And so I think that is the best way. I mean, just looking at the stats on our job board, the more flexibility a role can offer, then definitely the more applications they're going to get. And even those roles that are full-time, if they can offer flexibility in terms of we're happy to accommodate school pickups, you can catch up on work in the evening and stuff, they still do really well. But it's always about how you spell it out then in a job ad and shouting about it. And I think sometimes companies are a bit reluctant to do that, which is quite...
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I don't think maybe it's because it's the way they've always been done. They haven't updated their job ads. They haven't updated their job descriptions. They'll post something on and I'll say, oh, can this be done part-time? Can this be done flexibly? And they'll go, oh, yeah. And so I'm like, right, well, we'll add it to the job advert then.
You're looking for the best candidate, not the most psychic candidate.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway.
But I think a lot of companies just ignorant to it. I think even like you said,
so.
I come from a recruitment background, and to be honest with you as well, someone had come to me before I was a mum and said, I need a part-time job. I said, are you all right? Like, I would have been a bit like, oh my God, it's the guy, tell me, someone down there asking for a part-time job. And I'd be like, no, would have. Yeah. And it's true. We are taught this idea of work, as work is something you do, I don't know, 30, 40 hours full-time. And unless you've walked in those shoes, sometimes you just don't appreciate it.
I don't think you appreciate it, until you've done it.
And I think also, which is why I'm interested in, sorry, Alex,
no, it's fine.
The second aspect of what you do with women, because I know that you also do, is it coaching or consulting?
Yes, we do coaching. So do something like Career Crossroads, which is really popular, which is helping people navigate maybe career changes of some sort. Maybe they're returning to work because they've been out of work for a little bit, or they don't like their job. Get a lot of people as well that have recently returned from maternity leave and they're feeling a bit lost and don't know if what they're doing is now right for them, or like I said, they're just in a job, they are not enjoying that job, and it's how to get out of that job. Do CVs, reviews, rewrite CVs, LinkedIn, so profile building, and then strategy advice, how to build a network on LinkedIn, what type of things to post, and then interview confidence coaching as well.
And all of that stuff's really got to make a big difference. I think going back to work is really hard after having
I think so.
baby.
And people don't appreciate it, and you don't really talk about it. But actually it would have helped me. I felt like I was the only one going back to work crying. I was like crying on the morning going back because I didn't want to go back. I went back. But felt like everyone else seemed to have it all together and really were like wanted to go back. And I felt a bit of an anomaly not feeling like that.
Yeah, I feel like there's just not a culture about talking about it. And I think the kind of preparation that people do for maternity leave is all about getting your handover ready for your maternity cover.
Yeah.
And there's very little focus on what it means for the person who's going off and what they might experience and how they might feel coming back.
Exactly.
And it definitely impacts on people's confidence. I've talked before, I was off for 18 months because my son had to have a big operation. Going back after 18 months is really hard.
Really hard. It's like starting a new job.
Yeah, but one where people expect you to.
I know, that's what I mean. You don't get supported, and I felt like we were in a different office. There was completely different people. It felt like a new job, and like you said, they just expect you to just like start like you'd been working yesterday.
Yeah, somebody asked me like where like to find something in the shared drive, or asked me about a policy or something like that, like a week or so after I got back, and I was like, you're gonna have to ask someone else. I've not got a clue.
Yeah.
But it really does impact on confidence, because then people are asking you questions and you don't know the answer.
Yeah.
Or your whole team's changed.
Yeah.
Or in my case, the director has changed.
Yeah.
The strategy's changed. 18 months is a long time, but I think even if you are off for the regular length of maternity leave, if you know, no matter how long you're off, your world has completely changed in that time. The outside world has changed as well. And you're bound to feel like your priorities have shifted, maybe. So the coaching you do around that's got to be, I feel like in my mindset, I think that would be better if it was much more widespread and employers actually invested in that more.
I agree. I've got a podcast, and I did a podcast interview with a lady, and it always stuck with me. So she is now COO of an asset management firm. She has 4 children. When her 4th child was a baby, she was offered a promotion, and she was thinking, I don't know if I can take it. I'm already feeling stretched. But her manager rung her at the time and was really supportive and said, you know, you're the only person I want to do this job. I will do anything to make it work. I'll do some aspects of the role. How about we pay for coaching for you as well? And she credits that. She had about 6 sections of coaching for you know, for her staying there and taking that job, working her way up. Just that 6 sessions was worth so much more to that organization than probably what they paid, because they retained someone that's brilliant. You know, this is now 15 years on from that, and like she said, she's the COO, and I think it was just having that external support really helped her.
That's amazing to hear, though.
Yeah, and I think more firms should do that.
I'm interested as well. I mean, so with the mothers that you do coach, do you find any trends in terms of things they typically struggle with, or anything you notice that kind of pulls them all together in a way?
Everyone's really different, you know.
Okay.
So it's really hard for me to say. So I mean, just recently I've had somebody that was struggling, and this is on the employer, that she was having to stay until 6 o'clock. So, and then really struggling, then obviously make a nursery pickup when nurseries close at 6. And that was just complete lack of flexibility that her employer was offering. But what was really good was I did the coaching with her. Then a week later, a really nice role was added to our job board that was so much more flexible. Told her about the role, and she's now got that. So, I mean, that goes to show if you're an employer and you can't offer flexibility and someone really needs it, they're going to be looking elsewhere. So you know, is it worth losing that person over it? And then other people come back, and this is really like the theme of your podcast, they feel quite sidelined. You know, there's an assumption that maybe they can't do the big job anymore. They're not given the meaty projects, so they feel really overlooked, and that they're not being stretched. I think it's just trying to have that dialogue, isn't it? And being that open communication with your employer and finding an ally. And I think that's something I've learned speaking to people, is actually the importance of like a champion, if you can have that, or a mentor, somebody that's going to advocate for you at work is really important if you can find that person.
That's amazing. I think especially like you said, the solutions, because I find that obviously it's not an easy thing, but like you said, mentoring, for example, looking for someone even inside or even outside of your organization.
Exactly. I think it's somebody to talk to. I mean, ideally, I think if it's somebody in your industry, they're going to get it, whatever you're going through, a lot more, and understand the workings of your, you know, particular industry. But yeah, if not, then I think anybody just being able to talk to them. But I think it's really helpful. A lot of the people I speak to credit like where they've got to in their career for having had a champion earlier on. And that, you know, sort of maybe it's, you know, if you are identifying, a lot of people are really open to doing it as well. So if there's somebody you really admire within your organization, then if you can ask them to mentor you.
Quite flattering as well, isn't it?
Really flattering.
I think people like to help. I think there's a lot of research that people like to help. And I think if we look at the world in a way that it's how you ask, right? And how you approach people. And if you're open and genuine about your intentions for asking, I think people are quite helpful.
I think it would really benefit as well females' careers, because there's a lot of male bonding, isn't there, that happens on the golf course, maybe after work in the pub. So actually, if you can find a champion within the business that you can have a coffee with, then, and if you then can't, you know, you're not going to the golf course and you can't make drinks after work, actually having someone then that's putting you forward, encouraging you to take that promotion.
Because I remember I read an article about women not being visible enough in the workplace, and it being something that holds them back. And I was thinking about that a lot, because I know that there's so many reasons why we're not visible. It might be this sense of you think I'm going to put my head down and work, and I've been there before. You know, and that's just
like work will show for itself kind of.
You know, that sort of like, because I mean, for me it was a cultural thing, you know, being like Nigerian and African, that the way I was brought up, you work hard, you go to work. We kind of missed the advice about the visibility around working.
I know, the self-promotion piece.
Yeah. And I remember from my, you know, recruitment experience, I was for a while I was like top biller, and I remember we had one of the directors come in from another team, and I remember my female manager at the time, she was telling me to go and introduce myself to him, because I was thinking I just had to do the work. I didn't even want to go to like the drinks after work. Like, no, go and tell him what you're doing, introduce yourself. And I remember that thinking, that's what we need, is this work hard, but also balance that with this ability to kind of be confident and be visible, or find someone like her who would champion
in that. That's what so I do think, especially earlier in your career, to have someone say go like your boss is brilliant. And actually I think, you know, as we all get older in our careers, then that's something probably we owe as well to younger more junior colleagues. But it's really, I think it's so good, like what you said, but I think it is something we should be teaching at school, is this self-promotion and how to advocate for yourself.
And I've also found as well that having a community of other mothers, I mean, since I've become a mom and we've started my ambition, I feel like we're getting free coaching. Sorry, guys.
I know, I feel like that.
Sorry, it's our little secret. But no, it's been incredible, because before I became a mom, I thought, I didn't know there was a still community. I didn't know other women on LinkedIn were also talking about being a mom and the mental load. So I'm not on my own. I've actually got this bunch of friends and people I'm talking to online and seeing the post, and oh my God, me too. So I think that's another thing I would actually advise other women to do. See if you are in this, you know, find a community on LinkedIn, because there is a huge community of women that are actually talking about being a mom and the stress and the blessings and everything in between, right?
Absolutely,
And I think as well, so like the people on LinkedIn are all talking about it from a work perspective as well, generally, whereas there will be that kind of community on Instagram and stuff as well. But I think it's more focused on the actual parenting rather than the juggling it with work.
That's a good point. And it always looks a bit perfect on Instagram.
We don't need the photos. And that's one thing I've definitely given up, is social, like that element of social media. And I think it's definitely helped me. And I wonder for you, because I noticed you're quite good with your branding on LinkedIn, in terms of, I see your content, I see that you're sharing stories, you're kind of obviously building an audience and also reaching out to people. So I'd love to know how you transitioned into that from someone who maybe worked for a company. I mean, was that something you always had, or did you?
No, I mean, I've been on LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn since it started, like 2008, because when it first came out, we were, you know, at Hayes, and they were like, everyone needs to register on this thing called LinkedIn. That I never posted. All I used to post when I was in house was the roles. And that was,
I can relate,
and I just do it once a week. I'd go in, post on my profile, and then I was in some groups, and I'd post in the groups, and then that was it. But I never ever went and wouldn't have been on my phone. And I don't really know why I got onto it. Do you know what it was, really? I think it was the pandemic. I was a bit bored, and then I started following some people that showed me it wasn't like boring. And
I mean, I'm new to the party. I'm really new to the party. I've been on LinkedIn 13 years apparently. Oh no, I think maybe 11. Was it your 13th anniversary?
I might. It was 2008. I've been on it, but I'm not really.
Mine is 11 years. 11.
But so I hadn't posted anything much until the 1st of August, and I started posting on the 1st of August, and I'm on day 98 8
8.
of
Well done.
100 of posting every
Yes,
day.
Alex, well done.
In line with kind of visibility type stuff, but I've met amazing people on there,
Yeah.
and I really like it.
I really like it. I've made some really, really good friends. And I know it sounds like they're actually, because now we've met in real life, and the people I would have never, ever met if it hadn't been for LinkedIn. And I think it was starting, like, obviously, you've got to be strategic about your network, but then also follow people that just inspire you and are fun.
Mhm.
And someone that I really like that just inspired me is, like, I don't know if you follow her, Leah Turner.
Oh yeah, she's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
She's really cool, and actually following her made me realize you don't have to be like really corporate boring. And just following people's like that post, I think gave me the confidence to be a bit more myself.
I love that. And I think also for women now, I think we kind of have to build a brand because, jobs are changing, we become a mom, and then when you become a mom, like your priorities change. So some people have to start a business because they can't find the career that they want. So I'd love to know your approach to like posting. I mean, did you ever struggle with this idea of putting yourself out there, and how did you overcome that? Did you kind of get to the point where you feel like what drives you?
I mean, obviously when I first started posting, I was like really nervous what people would think, ex-colleagues and things like that. But I think it's like a muscle, really. The more you do it, the easier it gets, isn't it? It's like going to the gym, and sometimes I just view it like a bit of a diary. If you're feeling something, I'll just put it in. But yeah, and I think it's just building up that community on there, and actually reading other people's posts. They inspire me. Try not to post at the weekend.
Yeah, after day 100, I'm not going to post at the weekend anymore.
I try and do it Monday to Friday, so then it's more of a job thing. And then people say to me, "Oh, you run LinkedIn a lot," but you'll know this, Tiffany. I was like, the thing is, when I was at agency, I would be having to cold call 2 hours a day. We'd have to business develop 2 hours a day, and I don't have to do any business development because I get all my work through LinkedIn, and I'd much rather spend a couple of hours a day on LinkedIn that I can sort of fit a lot easier around the kids and other bits and bobs than 2 hours of cold calling.
Wow. So just being smart, isn't it? The world is changing and we need to change with it.
Yeah. And I think that is what I would rather do. That's how I would rather spend if I'm going to do business development for 2 hours, I'd rather do it like through LinkedIn than cold calling. So I don't like cold calling.
Well, you're a recruiter, you don't like cold calling. Get out of here.
I used to dread it every morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you remember the dress up ones? The recruitment agencies love they used to
tell me about this. Sounds good.
No, they do all these. Did you have to? Sometimes they were quite brutal games. Like you'd have to stand up.
Oh yeah, they love it.
Down until you'd made so many calls.
Yeah. But you know what? I
think
I'd love to talk about that as well. I think I really think recruitment has taught me so much in life that I actually wouldn't mind my kids going into recruitment as the first.
I feel like that. Do you know what? I actually say to a lot of people, it's like, it's a brutal job, but it's like you learn a lot, and the work ethic. Actually, you learn. I feel like you do learn quite a good work, and I know I'm all about flexible work and stuff, but it is. I think you realize that nothing comes for free.
Yeah, and I imagine you need that now as a business owner because I'm sure people look at your brand and oh gosh, you got such a because. I think there was at one point where we were actually thinking about creating some sort of agency. I'm not sure whether you remember, Alex, like a job agency for flexible jobs. This was a few years ago.
This was ages ago. This was ages and ages ago. So just after we'd had the kids, we were basically looking for it. We understood there was a problem for women wanting to go back to work. This is while we were still on maternity leave. We were like literally going to baby groups. Not that there were that many on because it was all pandemic-y.
COVID,
but we were going to baby groups and we were talking about this, and we started to think about it. But I know you started yours, didn't you, with like literal babe in arms?
Yeah. I did it in the nap time.
But we couldn't quite get there with our idea, and actually in the end we settled on a podcast, and it took quite a while to come up with an idea of how we could help people and get ideas out about being a mother and being ambitious and juggling things. But Tiffany, because Tiffany has that recruitment background, had thought that some sort of flexible recruitment agency would be good. But we also thought that the kind of training for corporate agencies and businesses around how you support women returning to the workplace. I think that's to me, that's something that they really need to invest into.
I think so. I think the problem is, I don't know if you agree with this, Tiffany, is that recruitment agencies will not do part-time because they don't earn enough.
Yeah.
The commission is the same amount of work to recruit somebody part-time as it is full-time, and then generally you'll just charge the fee on the part-time salary, so it's like half the fee for the same amount of work. It's not a commercial.
It's not.
That makes sense then.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why you have to, I think, sometimes you have to look at this in a brutal way, especially if you're like a mother or someone you're returning to work. I think sometimes you got to think, especially if you want to run a business, you want to create something, you have to understand that businesses are set up to make money. So sometimes it's not like you don't have a great idea, but sometimes you got to think, how can you sell it to a company with that they can see how they can make money? But that aside, I'm really interested to know that the ins and outs of running a business, because I think I look at what you're doing and I think that's incredible. I'd love to do it, but I know that I probably won't want to do it because on a day-to-day. So I'd love to know, I mean, what's it really like to run a business with children and a dog?
And a dog, yeah. I mean, gosh, it's hard. It's got easier because I've managed to employ 2 people now. It's definitely easier now than it was 3 years ago when it was all me and I was doing everything. And
you're the marketer, the cleaner,
everything. And then the best thing I think was then realizing, actually, I think when you start a business, you've got to realize, actually, if you're not going to get investment, which I didn't, everything costs, whether it's time or money. Everything costs. And obviously at the beginning you have no money, so you're just spending time setting everything up and then making lots of mistakes. But actually I think what's made it easier is as soon as I had a bit of money, I was like, I'm outsourcing bits and bobs now. And that was the best thing, getting a website, someone to manage the website. And I did that quite early on because that was just very stressful. And then got someone to help with Instagram and LinkedIn, and now we've got, she's not full time, she works school hours, but I always think, because I think we all work school hours, I always think of us like full time, like marketeer, marketing manager, and recruiter. So it has got easier having other people now to delegate. But gosh, yeah, it's hard, but it's fun. It's hard, but it's like parenting, really. It's the same, really. It's hard but fun. It is my 3rd baby, and I think it's like, you know, when they say with toddlers, it gets easier when they get to like 3. I feel like that maybe is the same with the business. Like the first year is just brutal because you don't know what you're doing. You're wasting money on things. You're chasing shiny objects. You know, if your baby's not sleeping and then you're like paying for all these products and thinking it's going to work. So you make a lot of mistakes in the first year, and then as you go on, you get a bit more confident. And yeah, so I think it's just like raising a child. So if you want to raise another child, start a business without raising a child.
I love that. I used to have a business, so Ricks and Media Just by Hand, which I dissolved. So I'd like to feel like I kind of get that, because I remember like it was really hard, but I did enjoy it. And I think, like you said, you've got to find some sort of fulfillment, some sort of meaning to do things at a time when it just feels like you're not getting anywhere, but for you it's worth it because you're pursuing something. I mean, so I'd love to know what drives you, like, you know, why are you doing this? Why, you know, what is it? Is it?
Do you know what? I do genuinely like recruitment. Okay. I don't know if that is. I just love recruitment, and so I feel quite fortunate that I got into a job at 20, whatever it was, 22, and so I like recruitment, and I've always liked recruitment, and now I feel like there's this added purpose on top of that as well, which makes it so much more worthwhile than I think it would be if I was just recruiting auditors or, you know, something like I used to recruit, because there's that added thing where I can be a lot more authentic. And also it helps as well, I think, working with mums, and I can be a lot more honest. I'm like, I can't do that call because it's half term.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if I've sometimes, it's not ideal, I've had I've been on the phone to a client and my child has walked in, and you know, not ideal, but it sort of works with my brand. And maybe if I was recruiting auditors into banks, I would have to be not myself.
Yeah, and I think as well, then you know, you're saying it's difficult. It's like having another child, but you do also have that freedom as well of, I need to go for school pickup.
Yeah.
I'm doing this completely on my own terms, and you know, you're also making a real difference to the women who also then get to have that flexibility by getting a job through investing in women.
It's really, we got a nice message yesterday, and then a lady that worked for me sent it to me, and it was just, she was just like, following you has given me the confidence to put a flexible working request in to my employer. And we get that, you know, even if we don't place them, it's that I put in a flexible working request because of you, and they've said yes, and that's really nice. And I think running your own business, you get to do a lot. It's not just freedom of hours, but it's freedom of, like, I'm sure you've found this, like being able to set up a podcast, being able to write a book. It's all that you wouldn't get in corporate.
Yeah. Oh, which brings us on to, you've written a book.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
How did you do that as well?
That was well, at least, do you know what? My mum was like, do not do it, do not do it. But then I had a business coach, and she's like, you better do it, because if you don't do it, you'll regret it. So I'm pleased I've done it. Obviously, it hasn't come out yet. It might get terrible reviews. But,
I'll be one who's giving a review.
But I've listened to a podcast right at the beginning of the year before I started writing, and it was so good. It was How to Write a Book in 30 Days. Mine definitely took more than 30 days, but the idea was you write 30 minutes a day. So that's what I did, and I thought, you know what, I can find 30 minutes in a day. I think most of us can find 30 minutes in a day to do something we really want to do. So I did 30 minutes a day, and it took me 5.5, 6 months, and
wow,
it's out.
I love that. You know, I've been thinking a lot recently about how is it possible that we can, this season of our lives as mothers can be the best of our lives.
I think so.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think I know you don't read the news. I quite like the news. So I do. Yeah, I've got news apps on my phone. I remember a lady who was in her 50s said she was a columnist writing about motherhood, and she said she looked back at her happiest time was when her children were small, and she spoke to a lot of her friends that were obviously 50s, 60s, and they also felt the same. So I think so. I don't know. I think life's what you make of it, isn't it? And every stage you can look back and think, actually, that was really good. I enjoyed that.
We've had that reflection before, haven't we, Tiffany, about these are like the good old days, and we're living in them now, even when it doesn't feel like it. And you've got to kind of hang on to that.
I think so. You don't
appreciate what you've got.
It. I remember working in agency, and at the time it was brutal because it was the financial crisis.
Yeah,
it was like 2008. Lehman's had gone down. It was awful. It was awful, to be honest. But now, 10 years on, or whatever, 15 years on, looking back, I'm like, that was really good fun.
Yeah, I think it is possible that the worst of times can be the best of times. I remember there's an Oscar Wilde quote said, we're all in the gutter, but some of us are looking at the stars. And I've always loved that, because I thought, I remember seeing I outside a bookshop, and I just stood there for ages, and I thought my husband thought there was something wrong with me. But I really love that quote, because I think it's humanity. You know, it's hard sometimes. You know, it's not fair. It's this and that, but it's really your perspective. And I've always found that, for me anyway, to be a way out of my situation. Now, I know obviously you, Elizabeth, you know, as optimistic as you are, as positive as you are.
I'm not always optimistic.
I know. I know, I get that. Yeah. What I mean is, I'd love to know, like, what's shaped your mindset in this way, that you're, like, what is it you do? Do you have any daily habits you do? Do you have any mindset things you do? Or anything that you do that helps you to be more positive, helps you to be more, like, fighting against the odds? Because I think we choose our minds, right? We choose how we approach things. But I'd love to know, what are the little things that you do or you find helps?
I think what has helped is actually that my daughter is IVF, because that showed me that anything is possible. And, you know, I tried to have her for 4.5 years. I know that not everybody is fortunate enough to have a child. I think it was that. And then when I was about to start my business, so it was before I'd launched. I was listening to a podcast, and it was a guy on it was talking about, and I'm not particularly religious, but this really stuck with me, that if you died, you went to heaven. I know it sounds really bad. And the gates of heaven, and God was like, what have you done with your life? And you'd be like, oh, I've done this, that, the other. It was good. You know, I was at a certain age, I thought I was going to do this, but then I didn't dare do it. And then God was like, oh, I'm so gutted you've said that, because let me show you what your life would have been like if you'd have tried. And then God shows this person their life, and it was like amazing because they tried something that they didn't dare do. And I was listening to it, and Mum was like, oh, this could be my business. And she's like, but you've already done that because you didn't want to try IVF for so long because you were frightened. You tried it, it worked. So there's nothing to say whatever you try is not going to work and actually be incredible. So I think that has really stuck with me. You've got to try. There's something, I think, so much worse not trying and not living the life that you could have had because you were frightened.
Oh, I love that attitude. And it sounds like you got your own business, you've all of this catalyzed by IVF, you've written a book, you've got your own podcast. Just talking about it all makes me feel quite tired. But I think you're obviously applying that theory across your life of let's just give it a crack, and
let's just give it a go. I think there is, you just don't know, do you? I've tried things and it hasn't worked. It's like I did try a consultancy within investing in women, and employers didn't buy it.
Okay.
And so things don't always work. But actually, I've also learned that failure is not as painful as we think it's going to be. It depends what the level of failure is, doesn't it? But certain, I think, work failures, if you just learn from it, you can pivot.
I like that. I really like that because, like I said, I've always been this sort of person that I agree with you. I definitely think life is what you make of it, and it all sounds cliche and right, but it's true. And at the end of the day, especially as we become mothers, we have the option to shape it. Yeah. Obviously, we're going to have all different circumstances. Some might have partners, some might not. Some might have support, some might not. But life is what we make of it. So hopefully, like we are doing the podcast, is creating a platform where women can find ideas. They can delve into this Elizabeth Willetts' mind and understand, why she's wired this way. And hopefully they can find inspiration in that.
Yeah.
We can. I'd love to know about the books, though, because I know you did mention about books you've read.
Oh gosh, I read books all the time. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any that you think are worth recommending or definitely gave you something new?
Oh gosh, I wrote a post about this the other week on LinkedIn.
Yes.
I'm trying to think what was on there now, because I was like, there was a few by Donald Miller, who's like a small business coach in America, and there was one Story Brand, and it was about how to position your marketing, particularly as a small business, and how you make your customer the hero and you're the guide, and that really stuck with me. And then he's got another one like it's basically build your business like an aeroplane, and how you need every engine running properly. There was a one-page marketing plan. I've forgotten who that was by, but that was really good, and it was all things aimed at small businesses. Atomic Habits, I know people have probably read that. That's a good one, isn't it? I'm reading one at the moment that's quite interesting called Influence, and it's about it's not like influencers as in social media influence, it's actually what influences people to do things, and it's all these different studies that like psychiatrists have done in America. And the one actually that has stuck with me, actually was brilliant, was Why 10x is easier than 2x. And it was by the same author. So Why 10x, and that's basically all about expanding your thinking about basically, if you I always get this wrong, but if you aim for the moon and miss, you'll still land amongst the stars. It's basically that, like being really ambitious, and then you'll get something. And the gap and the gain, and it's looking back on your life, the gap and the gain, and realizing all the amazing things you've already achieved, whether that's just even like learning to walk, learning to feed yourself, learning to get dressed, and you think, God, I've learned, from being a helpless baby to actually a fully functioning adult. You realize then what you're capable of.
I've been writing those down.
Yeah, the gap and the gain, and Why 2x is easier than 10x. I think it was by Dan Sullivan. But the Atomic Habits is good, and that's all about small habits, isn't it? To make big steps.
No, I love that. I'm quite keen on reading myself, and I've been taking more effort because I'm also coming up with like a list, an ambition list of maybe 50 books for women who want to level up.
Yeah.
I read what did I read? Mo Gaudat's Soulful Happy. So he was the ex-chief strategy officer of Google, sadly lost his son, and then he sort of starts to go down the path of happiness and what it means. And secondly, I have read it before. I'm reading again. Philippa, Alex, you know this one.
Philippa Perry.
The books you wish your parents
had read. Yeah.
Oh,
because I realized that sometimes we need help with this mothering game. I mean, have you read any book about like parenting? Because I'm starting to kind of get into that a bit now.
Maybe, I haven't really. My mum and dad, when my children were very little, bought me that toddler taming book from like the 1980s. Do you know what? It couldn't really resonate with me, the parenting books, because
Yeah.
Oh, so the Philippa Perry one's all kind. So she's a psychologist, and it's all about connection and it's a bit kind of gentle parenting sort of thing, but I really like her. She does an advice column for The Guardian and stuff. And it kind of resonated with me. I think with parenting, it's also personal, isn't it? That one book's going to hit differently with a particular set of people than another. Whereas, I'm not of the super nanny school of thought.
No. I did read that Happy Mum, Happy Baby when my baby was little by Giovanna Fletcher.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't read that one. Put it on the list.
I'll have to check it out. I've heard of that, I think. I think what I'm interested in is this idea of just kind of parenting a bit differently from how we were parented. I think that's what I'm interested in, because like I said, I'm always thinking, am I consciously parenting these children rather than, oh, that's what was taught to me as a child? And I'm always thinking, can I change it? I mean, can I do a bit more in line with their personality and how they are? Because my son's very like calm, my daughter isn't. So even that's really quite confusing. I can't play them the same. Like my son doesn't need, my son doesn't need like, stern things. He just doesn't, because he's quite kind and he's quite caring. And once you explain things to him, he's fine. But my daughter's just different. So I'm like, how can I just, remain sane on this journey? But so that's kind of where I'm at with that. Cool. So what's next for you then? Are you working on any projects or
what's next? We're getting a new website, so that's quite exciting to celebrate the new book. The book's obviously out in January. And I think
exciting.
So it's quite exciting. We've obviously brought a new marketing manager to join us. She started in September, so she's doing quite a lot of work at the moment. And I mean, obviously, it would be lovely if we could expand. We'd, go global. Get so many people messaging us that want us in like Australia and the US. So but maybe one day.
Franchising.
Maybe, if we can. That might be next.
And you also have your podcast as well. So you mentioned that earlier. It's Work It Like a Mum, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and there's some. I basically viewed it as free coaching for me. I've learned so much. Had loads of coaches on it, and I'm like, my mind is exploding every time I get these.
Even just our reading list is like it's growing every time we speak to someone. And just people bring different ideas, don't they?
Really interesting ideas as well. The things you maybe wouldn't have normally considered.
And hopefully we're going to be chatting to you on your podcast.
Oh, I know, so you'll come on to mine as well. I'm excited.
Love a podcast exchange.
Exactly, yes.
I want to know the very, very last thing. I know we're going to start wrapping up. I mean, because obviously, you mentioned that you had to hire people recently. How did that feel, that transition into like bringing other people on board and, letting go of that, you doing it yourself? How did you navigate that?
Obviously, you're like, oh my God, can I afford this person? That's something. Although I've always found, touch wood, that you question that, and then for some then you bring someone on, and then the business just seems to expand and take them. I always feel like that. So I think it's having that confidence that you can afford to pay them, and then once they start, it's actually trusting them. And I still struggle with that, because even today I was like, oh, there's something I would normally do. Shall I do it, or shall I just leave it to them? And then I'm like, no, I've got to leave it to them and not chase them. And but that is something I'm definitely a work in progress. I think it's letting go. And actually, what's quite nice is when they, I've got 3 people, well, 3 including me, plus some freelancers, and actually when they start having meetings without you, it's great. Actually, 'cause you don't have to be involved.
I love it.
Yeah.
I suppose it's just like letting your child go. They start school and you're like, oh.
No, but I think it's important. I think the idea of like allowing your dream to grow, because I think sometimes, just like in the house as well, like I struggle with that sometimes. Like my husband, I want to do everything, but I now know that there's certain things you don't need to do. If someone else can do it, can you let that other person do, so that you can be more effective, you can be more.
And they're better than me.
Yeah.
What they do, they're better than me. So it's like, it's letting them go, trusting them, and actually I often find if you give them the freedom to do, they do better than if you're like on them.
Yeah, I think if you're handing over something and you've told them how you want it done, you've got to let them do it their own way. And so somebody else who came on the podcast recommended a book called "We Should All Be Millionaires" by Rachel Rodgers.
Oh, okay, I'm gonna write that one down.
In that, she's like, anything that's not your forte, you should be out. So you should focus on what you're good at and not worry too much about trying to upskill yourself in stuff that you don't care about.
Oh,
so fair enough if you actually care about it, but if it's something you don't like and you don't care about, outsource that to someone else. Your time is better spent elsewhere.
Absolutely. That was actually a little bit about it was on Stephen Bartlett Diary CEO, and he interviewed Richard Branson, and Richard Branson just admitted that like he didn't really understand numbers or anything like that, but he's just obviously got an amazing accounting
got the
team.
intuition
to bring on people that can do it better than him.
I like that, because as mothers, we're busy as it is, right? So we've got to know what needs us to be done and what doesn't, and when we can let go of things, and then we can spend our time on things that are a lot more give us the best ROI on time.
Exactly, and actually at home as well. I think if you can afford a cleaner, do it.
Oh, I'm being seen by that. That's something I need to do next. But I think,
yeah,
I do.
There you go. That's on your to-do list. I've got a book to read. You've got to get a cleaner.
I'm evangelical about having a robo Hoover. That's I absolutely love it. Little Johnny 5, he's absolutely fantastic. Pops out every night, hoovers downstairs, goes back into his little lair underneath the cupboard.
Oh, good. You need something.
Yeah, the small ways we can just help ourselves.
Yeah,
love that. Where can people find you online?
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Elizabeth Willetts. Visit the website, which is investinginwomen.co.uk, and the book Flex is out in January. And if you want to get some free coaching like I've done, then you can listen to my podcast, Work It Like a Mum. There's some great coaches that have come on and are always really generous with their knowledge and time.
Whoa, are you advertising your podcast on our podcast?
Sorry. You can advertise yours on
mine. I'm hoping... Oh no, I was going to say, I'm hoping loads of people, you get a flurry of people who want to get jobs from your job board.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. If you're looking for work, definitely come on investinginwomen.co.uk.
Love that. I'll add the link in the summary.
Thank you.
But yeah, this has been fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks, guys.